Hi everyone, my name is Christina Kendrick and I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a box out of clay. We are going to be going over some of the materials that you will need to get this project done, and then I will show you step by step on how to get this small clay box done. Okay, so some of the materials that we're going to need, obviously we're going to need some clay. We're going to need a rolling pin to roll out our slabs of clay, and in order to get the slab of clay evenly, you're going to want to have some sticks that are the same size so you can use as props for your rolling pin and get the slab the same thickness all the way around. Having a fettling knife is always a good idea to help you cut out pieces of your slab. You can also just rely on a pin tool as well. Once we get our slabs rolled out, we're going to be taking a look at these tools right here. These are rib tools. We have a black one that's a bit more stiff than the blue one. You're going to need a ruler to measure out your squares and some wood sculpting tools to help with smoothing the surface. So the first step in the process is rolling out a slab of clay. I'm going to show you quickly how to do that. Take your clay, place it right in between your two wooden sticks, and you're just going to proceed and roll out your slab. Now that we have a slab rolled out, what we're going to do is start cutting out the squares to build our box. To build our box, we're going to need a total of 6 squares, and what we're going to do is cut them out to be 4 by 4 inches. So as you can see, the slab is probably not big enough to make more than 1 or 2, so you're going to have to roll out as many slabs as you need in order to get your squares cut out. You're going to want to take a hold of your pin tool and make markings on your clay. And as I keep doing this, just keep in mind it's going to be the exact same process for the next 5 squares that you will need. And there we have our first square. And I'm going to continue cutting out the rest of the squares, and we will come back with all of our squares getting ready to start building. Okay, now we have all of our squares cut out. We have 6 total. Keep in mind, yes, it is a box, but technically we're making a cube, so we do need 6 sides. I would say the thickness of these is about 3/8 of an inch, so you don't want to get too thick with the clay. Obviously, you can have the problem of it potentially exploding in the kiln if you get too thick with the clay. So what we want to do now, so I don't know if you can see on the clay, there's a lot of texture on there, and we want to try and get rid of some of that texture by burnishing the clay a little bit. So this is where we're going to use our blue rib tool, and what I want you to keep in mind is do not go across it with it 90 degrees like this, because you will scrape off a lot of clay if you do that. What you want to do is do it flush with the clay and just gently swipe across from one end to the other. And you're going to see that you're going to start getting rid of a lot of that canvas texture that was on the piece. So after we get the squares all nice and burnished, clean smooth surface, we are going to start getting the squares prepared to get all put together to make the box. As you can see, I have some beveled edges cut out on 2 sides. This is the kind of joint that we will be using to put our box together. It's called a bevel joint, so it's kind of like a nice 45-degree angle. And how you do it is using a fettling knife. Just have it flat on the table, and you're just going to angle it slightly and run it straight across. So we're going to join 2 of these squares together, just like this. Now, obviously when you roll the clay out, it's going to be a lot more wet and floppy. These squares have had... So in order to put the 2 together, what we need to remember is we need to score and slip our 2 pieces so that they form a nice bond in the kiln. So we're gonna generously score and all different directions. Once you have good surfaces like that, what you want to add is a little bit of your slip, which I already have some made here. You don't want to rub it in with your finger, because if you do that, what you're going to do is you're going to close up all of these nice ridges that we've already made in order for the clay to really bond together in the kiln. So you just want to just dab it on there. And then you're able to start building your box. The last step to this process is using some extra clay. You want it to be still a little bit wet, because what you're going to do is take the small coil and put it into the seam. And this you're just going to smooth out with your finger, or you can also use one of your wooden tools to smooth it out. So now that we have our box completely built, what we can do is make sure that we have all of our sides nice and clean as you can get it. So you're gonna want to find the nicest side for your top, and using your pin tool, what you want to do is kind of measure out, slowly draw out where you would want your lid to be. And I am drawing that little divot right there, because that way when we take the lid off, we know what spot the lid is supposed to fit back in on top of the box. So go ahead and do that all the way around. You can go ahead and use the same pin tool, or you can use your fettling knife now to cut out the lid. And you want to do it carefully. Obviously, the box is still a little bit fragile because it is still wet clay. And you have the lid cut off, and because of this little part right here that I did, now I know exactly where the lid is supposed to fit back into the box. Now that you have the opportunity, that you have the lid off, this is a great point where you can go back in, especially in your final piece. As you can tell, it was the last one that was put on, so there's no coils because there was no way for us to reach in there. Now that the box is open, we can go back in there and fill in the spots with some coils and clean it all up on the inside, make it look nice and clean. So after we have our box all done, we want to make sure that we take the time to go over all of our corners of the box and make them rounded. So what you want to do is really simple. Just wet your finger with some water and run it over the edge of your box, just rounding off the edges. And this is pretty much the final step in the building process of this whole piece. All right, so here we have our nice little box with our lid all constructed. It's a fairly simple process now that you guys know the basics of how to work with clay and how to put pieces together. So now it's just up to you guys to come up with your own design. And remember, we're going to be also glazing them, so keep the glazing in mind when you do come up with your design, so that you know, you're able to use the colors in coordination with your whatever design you decide to come up with on your box. And that's it. Now it's ready to go and sit on the drying rack, and it'll sit there obviously for a couple days, get dried out, and then it'll get fired and it's ready to go.